Hello, good evening. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. They call me Stepney, and tonight I am joined by James Allen. James, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on, especially after the litany of technical issues we've been having before this recording began. So I really appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Well, that's what TV is all about. You know, there are technical difficulties, but we carry on. So, James, I know a little bit about you because we've spoken before, and I do know who you are, and I know a little bit about what you do and stuff like that, but people don't. So for those of you that don't know, are you a 100-meter runner?
I am indeed. I set the world record back in 1988, but got busted for a positive drug test in Seoul. So yeah, I've been living down that litany ever since. But yeah, I can't even run to the end of the block without getting out of breath. If that was my job description, I would be pretty poor at that. But no, I'm a runner in TV, and for me, this means like doing the tasks that people higher up the food chain just aren't going to be doing: teas and coffee rounds, going on runs, facilitating last minute changes of plans, etc. So it's Joey work as far as I'm concerned. But that's not to denigrate it at all. It's a crucial part of the production process, but it's very much entry level, and as such, you know, the shit does roll downhill a little bit in that aspect.
So before we go into the role of a runner, tell us a bit about you and your background and how you've gone from whatever you were doing to where you are now.
Okay, well, I've just turned 32, and my whole working life, from leaving school and doing sixth form, I've just done standard jobs: bartending, shop assistant, delivery driver. I used to be a postman. So long hours, sometimes frustrating environments, high-paced, low appreciation, very little scope for going up the ladder unless you want to be a middle manager in those type of environments, which I never really did. So this became increasingly frustrating for me. So with the support and encouragement of my partner, I decided to go back to university, study film and screenwriting at Birmingham City University, and then got a first in that. And then after that, it was like, okay, what do I do now? And the two options were go into teaching, which would have been, you know, like a good career move, like a professional move, a way to build on my degree. But realistically, as much as I would like to be helping the next generation find their feet in life, I feel like the environment, being around other teachers and marking late into the night and conforming to very strict rules and measures, I don't think it would have been very good for my personality. So we decided that I can give it a year or two at making a run at being in TV production. So after I graduated, started applying for jobs, and then straight out the gate, I got very lucky. I got a 3-month contract with a well-known production company, and now I've been getting, you know, dribs and drabs of work, and I've been at it nearly a year now, and still just about managing to get a few jobs here and there. So that's where I'm at right now.
You know what? That's actually good to get the support, because not everybody gets it. But you know, it's good that your partner's giving you the support and says, you know what, take a year, 2 years, whatever it may be, and actually try and live your dream. Because I suppose ultimately that's what we all want, isn't it? That's something that allows us to dream.
I think without that, I remember the conversation we had, and it was just like, she was not giving me permission, but she was saying, you don't have to worry about certain aspects of life. You go for what you want to go for, and like, we're in this together type of thing. So that was a real crucial turning point in me going whole hog towards making this career a reality, and I'm very grateful for that, to be honest. Because I feel like if the financial situation was different, or the pressure from her was different, or something like that, I'd be marking papers right now, feeling miserable instead of talking to you. So, you know, it's worked out for the best.
Tell your missus we said thank you.
Yeah, I thank her every day, mate. The dishes are done right now. They're finished. Everything's cool.
So now we know a bit about you and your journey to starting. what is it you do?
Well,
So you're a runner. Explain what a runner is and where you want to take this role.
okay, a runner
Where this role takes you. Sorry.
For me, or my experience so far has been, as a runner, you are the bottom rung. If something needs to be done, they'll send a runner. So, for instance, I was on Ant and Deck's Saturday night takeaway in Birmingham a few weeks ago, and the set, because it was on a main road in Birmingham, was receiving a lot of attention from very early in the day. Now, the whole point of the segment was that it stays secret until relatively late, and then people rush towards it. But that was not the case. So you have to do a little bit of crowd control, have to liaise with security, have to liaise with your production manager. You have to kind of be everywhere not everywhere all at once, but there can be a lot of running around and is that done? Is that done? Is that done? Department to department to department, passing on messages, carrying equipment, dealing with members of the public, etc. So it can be a lot of something needs to be done. You do it now. That's the quickest way I can say it. Really.
So, how do you train for that? I mean, it's when you come out of university, they just go, right, you're just going to run around, and when you get on set, you go, what do I do? And they just say run. How do you?
Well, it's I gotta say the course that I went on, film and screenwriting, it was, and I'm quite grateful for this because I enjoyed this aspect of the course. It was just about screenwriting really and formatting and watching a few like wicked films on a Thursday afternoon. In terms of the practical preparation for being on set, and in terms of even networking your way into that scenario, it didn't really prepare me for what I was supposed to be doing. Now, I'm 32, so I'm probably about 10 years older than a lot of the runners I've met so far. Now, on one hand, that can be like, okay, I'm starting at the beginning now. I'm surrounded by people who are, I wouldn't have been chilling with them at school, basically. So you can feel a little bit alienated on that level. But the advantage of that is that I've had loads of work experience in the real world, quote unquote. So if I go on set and someone says, do this, well, it doesn't really fluster me because every single job I've ever had has been an iteration or a version of just do this thing for a bit and then do something else. It's not, it doesn't require, so like if you're an editor or like a sound guy, that's quite specific technical knowledge. Where if you're a runner, it's good because it's, low skilled. You just need experience on set. And the more experience you get on set, then it becomes more of a specialised thing.
So I think if I'm right in saying then, your life experiences so far have probably given you an advantage over probably some of the newer ones coming in, some of the younger ones coming in?
Potentially, but in one way, yes, and in others, no, because the first job I got out of uni, there was a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of like actual graft. So I've done plenty of that. It's not a problem for me. But you might have a 20-year-old girl 20-year-old woman who hasn't had to carry, sacks of mail and parcels for 6 hours at a time, like, you know what I mean? Or, drive delivery vans or carry stacks. It's just a different set of life experiences where if you put the person who lacks my experience, you put her in the art department and, she has to do a certain set of jobs there, I would be completely out of my depth, whereas she would fly through that. So it all depends on what's required on each job and, who's put in what department.
And so you did film writing, I guess, and screenwriting.
Yeah.
Is that ultimately where you want to go? Is that the goal for you?
That is the goal, yeah. So I'm planning to go up the editorial chain of command, like so from runner, graduate to researcher, potentially up to story producer, up to writer, etc., etc. But I'm happy to take a few left turns here and there. I want to get as much experience as possible, really, and it's more strings to your bow at the end of the day, more things for the CV.
And are you currently writing? Do you currently have something written that you'd like to get out there, or is it?
Oh yeah, I write every day. So I've got like I'd say about 12, 13 fully like finished screenplays, all at various stages of drafting and redrafting. But it's a rare day that goes past if I don't do at least a page on a screenplay, pretty much.
And are these for like films, TV shows, theatre?
Film and TV show. So I'll do feature films, and then I'll do pilots, and then I'll try and write an outline for pilots across, say, 8 to 12 episodes, where I think it might go, where the character arcs might be. But I'll have the pilot written, like fully fleshed out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sure. It sounds like you've got some a good plan in ahead. What do you think of the industry? So now you sort of got into it. What do you think of the industry?
Well, if I was going to judge my experiences just from what I've experienced, it's been fantastic, really. Like there have been very minor annoyances, and that's it. Whereas I've spoken to people who have worked in TV, and they've had horror stories, like people screaming in their faces, like fully disrespecting them, like bullying them, really. I've never experienced anything like that. And I don't know if it's because maybe, I don't know if it's the vibe I put out, or the production companies I'm working with, or just the individuals that I've met. Maybe I've just got really lucky. Maybe my next job will be a complete nightmare. But so far, so good. It's been really positive.
And if, in terms of where you're trying to position yourself to go, you said research is probably the next step for you, unless there's another left turn that sort of bypasses that or something like that. How does being in the industry get you to that stage? I mean, is it just you go, right, I've been a runner for a year, so now I'm a researcher, or is it you're doing the running stuff now and you're also applying for researcher stuff? How does it?
Well, on
work?
my first job, I was lucky enough to work quite closely with the researcher for an extended period of time. So I got quite a lot of second-hand experience in terms of what's required of a researcher. Now, that doesn't necessarily qualify you to be a researcher, because researcher it's a step up the ladder, but it's so much more responsibility than being a runner. There's so much more admin to keep track of, so many more personalities you have to deal with, there's just so much more responsibility. And your status and your rise in status doesn't necessarily correspond with the rise in responsibilities that you take on. So it's a necessary step as far as I can understand, but it's one that I'm not really looking forward to, if I'm being completely honest. It's a necessary evil on the way to the eventual goal.
It's funny to hear that, because I haven't had any researchers on my show yet, so it's good to hear that side of things, and it's quite surprising because you hear the word researcher and you think that is more, as you say, more admin type stuff, but not actually dealing with people. So to hear that they're dealing with people and dealing with different egos and personalities and stuff like that is an interesting one. What sort of, have you had any sort of, you said you had like a little bit of experience with just working with someone, and I know it sounds like it's not something that you want to do, but it's a necessary step. So
yeah, I mean, the researcher that I'm thinking of at the moment, she was great. She was so accommodating. She would give you help, advice. She would want to do everything herself, and I would say I can help little bits and bobs here and there. But she was like so conscientious and detail orientated that the more I was thinking that's the route I need to go down, the more I was thinking I'm not, personality wise, I might not be the best equipped for that. And if anyone's watching this, I might be talking myself out of a job here, but I'm extremely hard working, so I'll work my head around it. But yeah, it's a lot of admin and organisation. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And in terms of applying for jobs, I'm not really sure. Like junior researcher, it's not quite entry level, but it is if you're a researcher. And I think the researcher role differs from production to production as well. So different different companies want different things from their researchers. So it's a bit. I'm still trying to figure it out myself at the minute.
This is crazy because the key thing there is every company, every production company, the role is different.
Yeah.
So you could be going for something and it's not exactly what you were expecting. It's a different role, basically.
Well, there'll be certain commonalities, I imagine. But another thing about TV that I'm beginning to understand is it's maybe nepotistic or being in like a nepotism-based industry. Maybe that's too strong, but it seems like quite a small world, and it seems like recommendations are worth more than CVs, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
if you're a researcher and you've done a good job and the person above you recommends you, yeah, okay, you might have been doing a slightly different job somewhere else, but a recommendation will at least get you the Zoom interview that could eventually lead to your job if you make a good impression. So, you know.
That's again another key thing is I found that the industry is very much about not always about your ability or talents. It was a lot of times it's more about who you know and getting that leg up over somebody that might have more talent or experience.
Well,
so networking is key.
Networking is key, but when I was at university and my lecturer used to say to me, "All right, network, you're going to have to network, you're going to have to do this, you're going to have conversations," it turned my stomach because I don't want to be pressing people for, "Oh, give me something," if I'm talking to them. I really don't like that aspect of, quote unquote networking. I was very fortunate to get my first job through a resource called Talent Manager. I don't know if your listeners will be aware of that, but it's just a hub for production companies to post job opportunities and for you to network with other industry professionals. It's been really helpful and really handy for me in terms of looking for roles. So I got my first job through that. And when I got onto set, people were like, "Oh, who do you know? How did you get hired here?" I was like, "This is my first job in TV." And they were like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's through Talent Manager." And they went, "It's so good to know that those things work." And I was like, "What? No one thinks they work. Like, have I just been spinning my wheel? Did I literally just like catch lightning in a bottle on Talent Manager?" So yeah, it was interesting for sure.
It is because there'll be obviously people watching this and like you starting off and trying to wonder how they get that foot in and those sort of connections. So it's good to put in a pro tip there for the listeners and for people that are joining you on your journey as a runner. Usain Bolt.
Sure.
Usain Bolt.
They should join the Facebook groups as well, and try and get added to a WhatsApp group because those things, I see more jobs posted in those areas than anywhere else, really. So that's pro tip number 2 for the interview.
See, social media has played a big part in the industry, I guess, in especially in recent years, in terms of how jobs are posted, how people are contacted, how jobs are shared, and even just this, for example, most of this stuff has come from a Facebook page, a Twitter post, or and just trying to connect with people, just putting it out there, really, and just trying to get people to take the bite.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know how you would have got into the industry like 25 years ago. I would have given it a couple of months, then just thought, forget this. I just would have went back to being a postman because it would have been such a closed shop. Now it's still closed, but at least you have, like, as you say, you can take a few little nibbles. You can email companies. You can get on a WhatsApp group. You can DM someone. It's a little bit more encouraging when you have these resources open to you, for sure.
Okay, so what's it like being on set?
It's peculiar, really, because sometimes there are long stretches when you don't have to do anything, but you have to be prepared to like jump into action. So there are sometimes hours can go by and there's not much to do. But as a runner, you don't want to just be standing there doing nothing, looking at your phone. You want to be conscientious and proactive. That's a word you'll hear a lot if you're applying for runner jobs. We want someone that's proactive. The downside to being proactive is you really start pissing people off if you come around every 15 minutes. Do you want a tea, coffee? Do you want a bag of crisps? They're like, nah, we're rigging this light here. Do you want to give us a bit of space? You know what I mean? Like, it's, when you're irritating people. So doing things like that, like taking care of the crew or the talent, set a reasonable time frame. Just think, okay, I'll ask them now, so I'm going to ask them in 45 minutes or something. And other proactive things, ask your production manager, ask your line manager. Or if you want to stay out of their way completely, if you don't want to be a nuisance, ask a runner who's more experienced or more senior than you and just stick to them. So you're not going to be standing around doing nothing. So being on set is like, it can be quite a self-conscious experience. You kind of want to blend in and stand out at the same time. You want to get recommended for a job or brought back on another production, but you don't want to be getting in the way. That's been my experience so far.
So you talked about a couple of things there, and these are obviously things that you've learned on set. What other things have you learned?
Be ready to say yes. Like, even if it's something you're not quite sure of, just say, if you're not sure of it, just ask them to tell you exactly how to do a job, and then just do it. Like, don't go, I'm not sure about that. Because then they'll just pass it off to another runner, and then they'll just be annoyed with you. Just say, if you haven't done something before, just say you haven't done it, and then just do it to the best of your ability, because it's better that than you just shying away, because people don't tend to like that, because it's quite a fast-paced environment and stuff needs to get done to a certain time. So if you can't get your ass into gear quick time, then you're just going to be, it's going to be dead weight, really, and no one's going to respect you on the set.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I always tell the kids, if you don't know something, you ask.
Yeah,
and
sure.
You ask, as they explain it, you want them to be specific to what it is. And again, if they said something in a way that you don't understand, because we were talking earlier about the different language that is used on set, and it is just a case of going, explain how you want it done, and then I can do it. And you do need to ask those questions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, also there's loads of different ways. Like, some people are quite shy naturally. Like, when I first meet people, I'm a bit, standoffish. But by the time you get moving through the set, you do become a bit more lubricated to the situation. So you can be like, okay, if you don't understand something, say, sorry, I'm being a bit slow. Like, you can make a little joke out of it, or just to ease it through a little bit. But the main thing is you get the job done, and they know that they can come back to you and ask you to do something again. And that's how you'll get recommended for other jobs, or how you'll get a good reference.
So in your short time, just being a runner, who have you worked with that has really surprised you?
Ooh.
It doesn't have to be someone famous. It could be, you could go, it was lighting guy Pete, or director Anne. I don't know.
I would say, well, the researcher I worked with that I mentioned, I'll shout out her first name just in case. Her name's Hannah, and she was working with me on the Great Pottery Throwdown, and she was just exemplary. Like, so much help, so kind, patient, and all that. And she just made my life a lot easier on my first TV job. And she gave me a lot of good advice that I've enacted, and it's gone on to, reap rewards. Similarly, she was the production manager on the same set. Her name's Scarlett Lindsay, and I've only had maybe one or two other like bosses in my life where I've thought, oh, they're okay. I've usually detested every boss I've ever had. She was a joy to work for, and honestly, God, she was tremendous. I would go back and work for them in a heartbeat, because same thing. Like, if you don't know something, you could ask her, or if you're being a bit thick, you could just say to her, like, I don't understand, and she'd be like, listen, it's fine. Not everyone knows everything, and she'd take all the time in the world. Like, even in a fast-paced environment like that, she made it seem like you've got 20 minutes to talk a problem through, and it just put you at ease, like really relaxed, especially in your first job. Do you know what I mean? That was an invaluable experience. So yeah, very grateful to those two people. There was probably several others, but those two stick out.
That's good. Yeah, as you said, it's invaluable to get that sort of time and that sort of level of somebody going, it's okay, don't worry about it, and that understanding. Basically, you know, that's whether you're new to the game or experienced. As you say, every person, every production, every set you're on is always going to be that little bit different, and how people speak is always going to be a little bit different as well. And it is nice to just for somebody just to go, it's okay, you know, we've got this, and we're working on this together. So this is how we are going to work. This is what I need you to do. If you understand, let's go and let's crack on.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, because I'm the type of person where if I would have got a negative vibe within like the first 2 days of being on set, I would have hated the whole time. Like it would have just been an uphill battle. And immediately, like we did, the first thing we did was the rig, and that is taking all the equipment and all the stuff you need to make a TV show from one location to another, and it is an absolute ball ache, and it's heavy lifting, it's long hours, it's like stressful, you're sweating, you're trying to cooperate with people you've never met before. It can really wear on the nerves. And she, even from then, she was just like, set a really nice tone, real friendly, let's just get this done, positive affirmations, all that good stuff. So yeah, if there are any production managers out there listening, just be nice to people, man. You'll get much better results.
Be kind.
Yeah.
It's again, it's an interesting one, because all the things that you've talked about are genuinely experiences that pretty much everybody would have experienced at some point throughout their own journey. Whether it's you're starting off as an actor, you're starting off as a director, because you're finding your way, and you've got a crew that you've got to work with, and you've got to find the best way to work with that crew. So yeah, lots of the stuff that you would have been doing as a runner is as you progress in your career, you'll be able to use those experiences to help others, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely will be doing that. I won't be cold shouldering anyone on set, because I remember how awkward I felt my first day. It's not happening. I'm being cool to everyone.
I'm going to hold you to that. In your short experience, so I've got hay fever, so I sound a bit rough.
No, you're good.
But in your short experience, what do you think the industry needs to improve, or how should it improve?
Maybe sometimes you get one message or you get one instruction from one senior member of staff, and then quite soon after you can get a contradictory piece of like an instruction or advice from another senior member of staff. And if, first of all, you're not going to tell either of them that you're not going to do it, or so-and-so said you couldn't do that, with attitude. So there are ways to kind of finesse that situation to find out what really takes priority. But sometimes that can happen all at once, and you kind of have to decide for yourself what takes priority. Now, sometimes you get lucky and it works out fine and you get a pat on the back. Other times they'll ask you, like, why didn't you do what I asked you? So in that sense, I feel like a clearer chain of command would be a little bit more beneficial. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just something that's confusing to me. Other times, you know, I was just about to complain about food, but 90% of the jobs I've worked on, I've been really well fed. The Ant and Deck one, I had a turkey sandwich and a potato salad before I even did any work. They sat me down, they fed me straight away. I got a full Toby Carvery later on. So yeah, can't really complain. Only one job I was feeling a bit hungry on, but I won't name any names because that's a bit harsh. And I might want to work for him again in the future. I'll bring you back lunch there next time.
It's interesting because, again, the first things you were talking about is that chain of command when people are talking to you. I've experienced it. I've seen my daughter experience it, and you'd think for the type of industry that it is, that communication is key. You know, that the way it's a talking industry. You know, everybody's communicating. But yeah, proper chain of command sometimes when it comes to different things and what you should be doing is an important one.
Yeah, because you might have So like 3 people in the production office, and they're all pretty senior, and they're like 1, 2, and 3. But if you get conflicting messages and they're not all together and they can't sort it out between themselves in a way that you understand what takes precedence, then yeah, you literally just have to do what you're told and hope for the best. But again, there are situations where you can work it out for yourself. And after, especially if you're on a long-term job, like if you're on a job for several months or, a good few weeks, I feel like that's also part of your responsibility as a runner to prioritize things and understand what goes first and what goes second. So it's not just, the production staff's fault or their responsibility. It's also on the runner, depending on how long they're there. Yeah, obviously, if you're just working for a day, you do need to be told. But longer stint jobs, I do think that's our responsibility too.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's everybody's responsibility. Communication is it doesn't stop with just the runner, and it starts from both ends and sort of meets in the middle, if you know what I mean. And it's like I said, it's one of those things where I've worked in a lot of industries, like yourself, different types of jobs and stuff like that, where communication is definitely always key, because you've got to know how to speak to people, you've got to know how to understand situations. One of the jobs I had, and everything was safety critical. So the information and the comments you give on the radio, for example, if it's not clear, you just say, "It's not clear, please repeat." And then you repeat it back to them so that they know that you've understood the instruction, and then you go and carry out that task. But yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one, and that's probably an area that the industry does need to improve on. But there's loads of other areas of improvements with everything, and as you said before, each set, each production is different from the other. What's been your longest shooting day? What's been your longest day on set?
On set, be about 12 hours or something like that. Like nothing too mad. I mean, like that. Obviously, that's a long day, but I've worked longer bar shifts. I'll put it that way. Like I've worked a 15-hour St. Patrick's Day shift once, and that was hell. So, in terms of being on set and being ready to go, and perhaps not taking as many breaks as you should because things have to get done on the day, then yeah, probably about 12, 13 hours, something like that.
And let's flip it, the shortest that you've done.
Well, I think there's a difference between your set shift and the amount of work you actually do as well. Like I've had a job recently where the shift was 8 hours, but the amount of work I did was not 8 hours. And that's not for lack of trying either. There was just, when I got there was 4 empty hours, and I asked everybody I could ask, and they were saying, look, it's fine. Just, you can help out with whatever you need to help out with, but you need to be ready at this time. As long as you're ready at this time and you know what you need to do and you know what your responsibilities are and you move quickly, that's fine by us. So I was happy enough. I knew where I stood, and I was cool with that.
It's long days. I mean, I've had some long ones back in the past, and they do kill you. Yeah, getting onto set for getting to set. You know what? I'm going to take this question off for a second, because that's another one. Getting to set can be difficult if you don't drive, or B, do drive but don't have a car. So I remember going to set on one thing, and we had to be in Blenheim Palace for, I don't know, I think it was 5 a.m, something like that, because we had to get costume on and all that sort of stuff. And then because it was summerish sort of time, so there was long filming hours, so we weren't finishing until about 6, 7 at night. So as a it's a good payday, you go, great, that's a good one to have. But then you had to get back home from Blenheim Palace, and the coach that took you into Central London. You got back home. Some people stayed nearby, but then you had to keep doing that journey for 3 weeks. And it's how is that? Do you drive?
I do drive, and my partner and I share a car, so I'm very, very lucky on that level, because there aren't a lot of productions that come to the Midlands area, which is where I'm based. So yeah, without the car, I would have had less jobs. Let's put it that way. I mean, the first job I had with Love Productions, they were happy to, it was a 4 days on, 3 days off for 12 weeks. So to them, you can catch the train as long as you're there by 10 a.m. on day one, and you can catch the train back or whatever. Yeah, so that was a pretty forgiving situation. But other jobs I've had, it's been having a car has been completely necessary. Like, I don't know how people do it without a car, really.
It's different. I guess it's different in London because most places you can get to by public transport, to be perfectly fair.
Yeah.
And even if I've done somewhere where I said I had to get a night bus to somewhere and then get that first train into the station that comes in and then take that out to, like, I think it was Shepperton or something like that. So it can be a struggle, but it can be done. And it's different for people like makeup artists and people that have to take equipment with them because they all drive.
Yeah. Well, you need to. I suppose in London as well, like, because so many production houses are based in London, and like you say, the transport links are just so comprehensive. You can get to where you need to go to. But if you're outside of that, or even moving to London and dealing with that would just be like a massive headache. Do you know what I mean? Even if you went down there and stayed with a friend for a month and just to get on a job, like doing that every day, like doing 2 hours commute in the morning, doing a 13, 14-hour day, then doing 2 hours a night, like, when are you going to sleep? When are you going to eat? That will quickly become like a real slog. So yeah, I don't envy anyone in that position.
That's the thing that I was talking to somebody else on another show about, and I said people don't realize it's a lot of hours sometimes, and it's not just the hours on set. So you do a 12-hour shift on set, and people go, okay, that's not bad. I'll do a 12-hour shift at doing this job and that job, and you go, okay, that's fine. But it's sometimes your commute to that job. You have to drive an hour and a half to that job, an hour and a half back. When you actually get home, it's another couple of hours to just unwind, and then you unwind and sort of start relaxing, and then you start thinking about going to sleep, and then you're trying to sleep, especially always your first day. Your first day is always the worst one, where you have to you're sort of just awake but not awake, but just awake enough so that you don't fall asleep and you wake up really tired. People don't I don't think they understand how difficult it can be, because it's a lot of standing around a lot of the time, and you're not moving around a lot of the time, and people might not understand that.
Yeah, like it's a calorie burner for real, like being a runner, or maybe that's why they called it that. But again, like, that was every job I ever had. So although of course I get tired like everyone else, but like, I was a postman for 2 years, and like doing those kind of miles, it like really stands you in good stead for a job like this. So there were times when I've been on set and people are like leaning up the wall, just like holding their backs and that, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not doing too bad here. They look like they're dead on their feet. I'm not too bad at the minute. So it's all good.
Just getting this one in. Are you a shorts person in winter?
Yes, I'll wear shorts any given opportunity. Even now, post Royal Mail, I am still a shorts person in winter.
There's always at least one person on set, no matter how cold it is. It could be -50 out there, and they've got shorts on, and you just go, "What? How do you not feel that?" And they're just like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Because you might be outside for a bit, but then as soon as I go inside, I'm just like peeling off layers. I don't deal with the heat very well, so I'd much rather take a bit of a chill.
I like the heat. I don't like the cold. So far, your experiences have been positive, which is fantastic. And thank you to everybody that has provided you with those positive experiences. Would you recommend this industry to others to try and get into?
I would say that's very much dependent on your personality and your situation. Like, as I iterated at the top of the show, like, I've had the support and I've got the situation that's enabled me to go after these opportunities as a freelancer. If I had, let's just say I was a single parent and I was renting accommodation, and I had more bills to pay, I had food to sort out, I had school runs to go on, this would not be a viable career path for me. So it really depends on your situation and your personality. Like, there's no reason why anyone can't start being a runner or get into TV if their situation lends to it. But you really have to ask yourself are you able to do it first and foremost? Because everyone needs to eat, everyone needs to, stay warm and all that good stuff. So take those into account first, and then see where you can go. In terms of like the job experience and all that, again, I can only speak for myself. It's a sweet job. Like, there's a lot less of the regular job bullshit. You know what I mean? That goes into this. It's very much like, it's very informal, the way people speak to each other and the way things get done, which really appeals to me as a person. Whereas, if you work I used to work in a well-known shoe store, and it was like super like regimented, and it was not good, not a fun place to be at all. So I like that about TV. So if you're that kind of personality as well, yeah, I'd recommend it. But again, it starts off with, can you pay the bills? Can you survive? And make your decision from there.
Yeah, it's I think that's what sometimes turns some people off when they when they find out that your first couple of jobs you might not get paid. You just do it for the experience, and as you said, if you don't have that support network and you can't afford it, it's not always viable.
Well, the thing is, I don't think I'd be taking any unpaid jobs, full stop. Like, it's good. Like, work experience is something you do at school, isn't it? Like, if you're over 18 and or even if you're over 16, you should be getting paid for your time, right? And if someone doesn't pay you, that's not on, really, unless you know that going into it. Unless they say to you, this is an unpaid thing, and you're okay with that, then that's kind of up to you. But I wouldn't be taking any opportunities like that. Not really.
See, I guess it's different for a runner than it is for, say, an actor, makeup artist, or something like that.
Yeah, an actor's different because you're on screen. That's your profile. That's like, it's completely different. Like, if you see, you might see my name on a show that I've worked for, but those are just letters assembled on the screen. Like, you'd have no idea like who I am, what I look like, what I'm contributing to the show. Whereas if you're on screen, even if you're an extra, people can get a sense of what you're contributing to the show. So that's worth a lot more. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I think if I was an actor, if I was talent and I was at the beginning of my journey, I'd have a different attitude. But at the end of the day, I'm making teas and coffees and carrying heavy things upstairs, so I'm looking to get paid, really.
You know what? It'll be interesting when you start doing your own work and you're producing your own stuff, and you're going to go, yeah, I need people to work for free.
yeah, potentially, yeah. I might have a completely different attitude at that point, but I understand that there are a lot of people who are just starting out on doing their own productions and stuff. Of course, man, that must be like, I can't even imagine how difficult that is, like sorting things out on a shoestring budget and getting something from through the production stage to the final piece with like hardly any money at all. Like, I really wouldn't even know how to start with that. So yeah, I've got all the sympathy and admiration in the world for those people, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be going in that direction anyway. So I might just leave that to them.
It's like I said, it's a difficult one. I mean, the industry as a whole, you do find that short things like short films, for example, and you say the small productions and stuff like that, is they're heavily reliant on things like funding and people just wanting to A, get experience, B, to top up their experience and get some screen time, especially for your actors and people like that. Makeup artists and costume, again, it's especially when you're starting out, it's all the experience, and you sort of have to get those experiences under your belt, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it is different. It is different, I guess, when it's different roles.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially like for talent as well. Like, that's just it's just a more daunting prospect, isn't it? Like, being in front of camera and doing retakes and learning lines and doing the costumes and doing the makeup, and even before you get to being on screen or performing, there's so much build up and preparation and pressure, and yeah, I don't envy people in that position, to be honest.
What sort of challenges are you expecting as you go through this process?
I try not to think about that. I just try and keep putting one foot in front of the other and take a day at a time, because anticipation, well, for me, can lend itself to kind of procrastination in a way. Like, I don't want to deal with that because so and so might say this or that, and in the end, it's not even reality. So I could talk myself out of doing my best job possible if I start trying to anticipate problems with people in the future. I've tried my very best to just tackle each problem as it comes. But in terms of my eventual goals, it's going to be a real struggle to get into a writer's room. That's going to be really difficult, because that is like, who accepts unsolicited works? No one. Like, how do you get into that room in the first place? Do you do like minutes for a meeting? Do you have to be someone's PA? Do you have to, well, knowing someone would help, but you have to be bankable in terms of your writing ability and what you can bring to a studio. Is this going to be profitable, basically? But how do you prove that to someone without having ever proven that in the first place? So that's going to be the main struggle. I feel like I'll be able to get up to a certain point, and that will be the main hurdle generally.
It's the reason why I asked that is because it is an interesting one, and for a lot of people, regardless of the role that they're in, it's getting from here to here. That there needs to be the big leap, and and we talked about it earlier. Obviously, it's about who you know sometimes, and not about your actual talent or ability. And I'll sort of just go with this one, just so you can see where I've gone, and my thinking behind it. And should we have? I know some channels like BBC and Channel 4 and even ITV to an extent, and then some of your networking sites like Netflix and all those others. I know they have opportunities for people to put forward their stuff. I still think a lot of it is not luck. It's not luck that those people are putting out pilots and stuff like that. Should we have a small screen channel here in the UK?
What do you mean by a small screen channel?
So a channel that gives people the opportunity to put out their work, and will fund it, so that people are paid to put out their work, almost like what. So I've always said that over here we should have Pilot Week. In America, they have Pilot Week. Okay. So that's where they put people put their pilots out to networks, and that's why sometimes when you watch an American show, is you watch the first episode and it will say pilot. Yeah. And then the second episode or whatever it is, everybody's got different hair, everybody's looking different and stuff like that. And it's something that it makes sense, because if the pilot is well regarded, and like I said, it's funded pilots. It's not just like people putting stuff off their own backs and stuff like that. It's a funded pilot. And that way, if it's well received, then you get that first season, or you get that go to make a film and whatever else. So that's what I mean. Should we have a channel, a more dedicated channel to give those opportunities, and it should it be funded?
That would be class, to be fair, because right now it's a bit of a closed shop in terms of you've got a bunch of you've got writers and TV executives that come up with ideas, and then they decide, okay, this might work, or you might be working with a proven director, writer, etc. Then they're just kind of guessing based on their experience, valid as that may be, that this will hit. But you get loads of shows and loads of films from credible people that, for whatever reason, don't hit, even when they use like focus groups, etc., to kind of really hone in on what people are looking for. So that's the best way you could do it, and have a channel dedicated to those type of things. Like, I wish there was more experimental stuff on TV now. Like, there used to be a show called Monkey Dust back in the day on BBC Three, like this animated thing, and it was really off the wall. And I watch random episodes now and again. And first of all, I think, how did this make it onto TV? And secondly, I think that would never make it onto TV now. Never. I don't know who the guy was that came up with it, or who he knew, or how he got it through the BBC filter system. But that would never fly now. But if one of those episodes was exposed to people kind of as an independent thing, alongside other pieces that are independent, and you can kind of judge them on their merit rather than what company they're attached to, what director put it out there, what actors are involved. I think you'd have a bit more of a meritocracy going on, and people would, the quality would really rise to the top. I feel like that's a sick idea. I've never really thought about that, to be honest.
I've had it for years, and it's like I said, it's me. I like improvement. I like to improve things. I like to make things better, and by making things better, it doesn't only make it better for me as somebody that's watching it. It makes it better for those that are actually doing the work behind it. And the idea behind it is just to go. There's so much good stuff. Unfortunately, as you touched on, there is they have to make a decision on what is going to be profitable.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is those most randomest of shows like Monkey Dust that are just profitable because it's so offbeat, it's so off the wall. But you tend to find that a lot of the stuff that gets put out is sort of the same as stuff that's already out there. So there's minimum risk being taken.
That's the thing. Really... You hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail on the head. Like it's bankable, it's replicatable, it's worked before. Let's do it again. But try explaining a show like The Mighty Boosh. Like, could you ever pitch that to anyone and be like, "Oh, this people will love this for decades to come"? You get laughed out of the room. But it's it's like a trademark of modern British TV. But I don't know.
The Mighty Boosh is a quality example because especially with comedies, BBC used to put a lot of their comedies on radio. So I heard The Mighty Boosh on radio first. Before the TV series, and it's actually funnier. It's actually funnier on radio. So if you get a chance, listen to old Mighty Boosh radio things, and it's funny. Same as Little Britain when that first came out. As I heard it on radio first, and the Pete Waterman bit used to be a telephone call, and it was just hilarious because he'd be like, the phone would go, "Ruler," and he'd be like, "No, Dennis, it's me." Oh. You got a job in Blackpool. Oh, me and Ruler went to Blackpool. We had candy. So it can work for certain things like the radioing. But again, I won't lie to you. A lot of these things are from people that are well connected. So the radio is just the first in, and then that works with comedy, but it doesn't always work with other stuff. And I've always just thought that to get more people more choice in what they're viewing, that's the best way forward. But what do I know?
The thing is as well, like the whole idea of a TV channel now, it's almost like we're already past that. It's like people have the opportunity to put things out on YouTube or other streaming services that haven't quite monopolized that side of internet broadcasting to the same extent. But again, like even that's kind of tailored towards the bigger channels, the bigger content producers. Like I'm not sure how the ad revenue works, but I know for a fact that I get a lot of stuff that comes up on my YouTube feed that I'm not interested in, and I never have been interested in. So why does it keep flashing up? So yeah, it's been monopolized in its own way. I still feel like if you've got the technical know-how and the ambition, you can put things out on streaming sites, but then it's like, who's going to take you seriously if you've just put out a YouTube thing, unless it goes viral? And, going viral nowadays, you can buy that. So what's that really worth,
Yeah. But that's the thing. And that's what, like I said, it's a frustrating thing for somebody like me who just wants people to be interested in what I'm doing. It's a frustrating thing for people that put like yourself that will write something. You just want people to be interested in what you're doing, and then you get other people that they, your influencers now, and there's no discredit to them, but a lot of their influence has been paid for in terms of how many hundreds of thousands of followers they've got, because when it comes to comments and messages on their post, you've got 150,000 followers, but these 7 people have commented on your post. That doesn't make sense. Those are bots. Like I said, I prefer the organic, because in that way I know that what I'm doing is something that people want to hear and want to see. And like I said, that was my whole thinking behind it. A small screen, and again I call it small screen. It's open to putting out TV shows. It's open to putting out films. It's open to putting out short films, because I do like a good short film as well, because sometimes you can say all you need to say in 3 or 4 minutes of a short film, sure. 10 to 15, 20 minutes of a short film, instead of 2 hours, an epic thing. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and you never know, I might be down that road one day.
Well, I was about to say, have you ever thought about starting your own thing, be it on YouTube, be it from your own kind of service? Have you ever thought of creating a resource like that? Because I feel like that would be, quite popular with creators, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my thoughts. Like I said, I'm an ideas person. I always get ideas, and I had the idea for it, like I said, years ago, and the difficulty with putting it on something like YouTube is lots of it will still get lost, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Whereas if I had like my own dedicated channel, then I could say, yes, this is how it would be, and you go like Mondays. You've got 7 days to sort of plan everything, and you get all the content from people as they come in, and you get interactions from people by saying, did it work? How did you feel about it? That sort of thing. Once you get those sort of reactions, and then hopefully what you'd want from there is for that to either go on and be funded on one of your mainstream channels or whatever, or make enough money that I could fund it myself. But it's a difficult balance, and again, it's probably one that I need a billionaire backer to help me out with.
Yeah, get Elon on the blower, man. He'll sort you out. No worries. He's got the billions to spare.
Yeah, lend us 7. Before we end, is there anybody that you would like to interview? Who would you interview if you were in this seat?
That's a good one. That is a good one. Ooh. I'd probably speak to. I had the opportunity to go to a workshop with him as well. But Stephen Knight, who wrote Peaky Blinders. Now, I've never watched Peaky Blinders because everyone from Birmingham loves Peaky Blinders, and so even my partner and I used to live in Norway, and they used to say, "Oh, you're from Birmingham, Peaky Blinders." I'm like, "Listen, you're wasting your time. I'm not interested. I'm gonna watch it one day, but when all the hype is past, and when people stop dressing like people out of Peaky Blinders and pretending they're cool." So, yeah, I'd say Stephen Knight, just because he's well regarded. He's starting his own TV production studio in Digbeth here, bringing a lot of TV film interest to the Midlands, which is obviously going to be massively beneficial for people like myself. And I'd just like to pick his brains a little bit. How did he start? Where's he going? That kind of thing. I feel like he'd be an achievable, but also kind of high level interviewee, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those sort of stories are the ones that, I could probably get him on here, to be honest. I'll let you know if I get him on.
Yeah,
if I get him on, I'll get you on as well. We'll have all 3 of us on the screen, and you can ask him a few questions.
Then I'll have to watch Peaky Blinders before the interview, though. So maybe don't include me.
Don't worry, I still won't. So I'm just going to tell me all about it. Yeah, like you, I'm waiting for the hype to die down, and there's certain things. Is me as a viewer, me as somebody that watches shows and films, is sometimes if something's got too much hype and I haven't started it from the beginning, I'll tend to just go, I don't know, and I'm gonna annoy a lot of people by saying this, and I use it as a good example. Is I watched Breaking Bad and didn't think it was all that.
Oh, I mean, I strongly disagree with you there, but yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I knew there are certain episodes where you're like, what's going on here? But I did catch it at the beginning, and it was at a point in my life where I was really getting excited about long form TV. It was like the beginning of the golden age, like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, etc. Even though beforehand I'd watched The Wire, which is still the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Breaking Bad was like, top quality for me. So yeah, I'm sorry to end the interview on a bad note.
I know, like I said, it's because I didn't watch it from the beginning, and I realised that. And this is, I get people that say the same thing about Game of Thrones, and I go, Game of Thrones seasons 1 to 4 was the best. What's wrong with you? You must go and watch it. And then
I pretend that
season 8
didn't exist. I actually do that. Like I don't.
It doesn't. It stops. It stopped at season 6 for me, to be perfectly fair.
Still the greatest show. I read all the books as well, and it was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is living up to the books. And then season 8 came along, and I was like, so what's going on here, man? Why does none of this make sense anymore?
I'll send you something later, but I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed with it. But yeah, as I said, with Breaking Bad, don't get me wrong, look, I like Bryan Cranston, I like the other guy. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the show. I think it was well written. I think it was well acted. I can't fault it. I just, compared to the hype that I got from people that were like, oh, you haven't watched it, you haven't watched it. It was a bit flat for me. Whereas I watched Game of Thrones from the very beginning, so from that very first episode, and it got me enough to go, oh yeah, this is interesting. And I'm not usually like a fantasy sort of television watcher, but it got me. It got me very, very interested. And you get to, I'm not going to give any spoilers away here, but you get to episode 8 of season 1, and you just go, you can't do that. You can't do that. The show's over.
You're referring to. So
yeah.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but you just go, the show's over. The show's over. Like, it can't go any further than that.
Yeah.
And it does.
And there's so much more to come. Might rewatch it now, to be fair. You're getting me excited about Game of Thrones again.
Stop at season 6. You guys see season 7 at a push as well, but definitely stop at about season 6. And I could watch season 1 over and over and over again. It's that good.
Yeah. For sure, man. For sure.
But James, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I would love to get you back on at some point in the future, and you can talk to me about how you've gone from runner to writer. I think you're going to skip the old researcher part.
yeah, if I can, I will. And thank you very much for having me on. And thank you for your patience. We had a string of, first of all, it was my lack of organisation, then my internet sabotaging the interview. So yeah, thank you for your patience, and thank you so much. Really,
like I said, it happens. It's I was going to be late because I was running late, finished work late, and everything else. And then when you said that you're late, I was like, okay, phew, that's all right then. And then like I said, technical difficulties are technical difficulties. They're all part and parcel of the of the show. So we got it, we done it, and thank you very much. He's been James Allen. I'm pointing that way, which makes no sense. He's been James Allen. They call me Stepney, and this is Behind the Scenes.